Hello, I'm Harry Sewell, and welcome to the Seasoning the Reasoning podcast. Reasoning is a term used in Jamaica when people share a conversation and deeply explore a matter of mutual interest. In this series of podcasts, we hope to season the reasoning with curiosity, intellect, and in some cases, humour. Enjoy. Welcome to episode 8 of the Seasoning the Reasoning podcast. I'm Harry Sewell. My special guest and dear friend today is Sami Switch. Sami is half Tunisian and half Irish and is a songwriter, rapper and poet from Reading. He is signed to BMG Publishing and has current writing credits on various chart songs, including an official chart number 3 with Wes Nelson See Nobody. After releasing 3 bodies of work, Carpe Diem, Momento Mori and Solace, we can see he's got an incredible understanding of the way words work and how to play with them. His lyrically and layered experiments need to be peeled like an onion. His viral poem, Ocean of Pain, deciphering and exploring his mental health, opened up work with mental health charities and blogs and is part of his work. Sami has also worked with young refugees and a charity, Phosphorus Theatre, to build confidence in storytelling, poetry and rapping. This led to Phosphorus Theatre touring their shows all around the UK and winning awards at Edinburgh Fringe Festival. His feet are firmly planted on the ground, but that doesn't stop him from taking any track sky high with his vigour and penchant for verbal assault. He is currently working on releasing his 4th project, expected for summer 2021.
My man.
All right, yeah, so Sami, it's good to see you again. Haven't seen you for a long time.
What's up, brother? How you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm good. It's
Good.
so good to have this opportunity to
I've
talk with
missed
you.
you, man. I wish this wasn't for a screen. I wish I
You
could
know
see
that, you know that. It's been, I haven't like bumped into you in town and given you a big hug
I
for a
know.
time.
We used
Do you
to
remember,
always, whenever we bumped into each other, we'd stop and hug for like 5 minutes. People must have been like, what is going on here?
do you remember that time in Purple Turtle when like it was a surprise I was there and it
Yeah,
was just
I went off. I was like, we ran up and grabbed you. And everyone was trying to talk to me and you. And we're like, leave me alone. We have to have this catch up.
that was amazing.
Yeah.
No, it's good. And as you say, soon we'll be able to link up properly. But yeah, I've just, funnily enough, today is the day when I've launched a series. It's called Seasoning the Reasoning.
Okay, lovely.
So yeah, so we're just gonna be exploring a number of issues. And one of the things I know about you is your work is diverse. Of course, music is where you spend your time and your energy and your focus. But I'm also aware that you've done work with asylum seekers and refugees, and I'm kind of hoping we can explore what that's about.
Yeah.
And I also know some of your songs, your spoken word, the one that, as we say in the industry, the one that busts you, Ocean of Pain,
Yeah.
kind of was a real exploration for quite a young man of, masculinity and being emotional and mental health. Let's start with that.
Okay.
How did you get to write Ocean of Pain?
It's really interesting that you say that, man, because I just came over to my brother's house and my brother's friend here was Steve was here, and he was saying that he is into poetry, and he referred about my poems, and he said to me, the thing is about you write the thing you're most scared of, and you're not going to believe this, yeah. He said the thing you write the line that you're most scared of, and I said, I saw that this morning on Andrea Gibson's Facebook.
Oh.
You know, the poet that you bought me
Yeah,
the book
yeah.
and showed me. And he
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
so did I.
Oh, really?
Yeah, bro. For the last 40 minutes, we've been watching her poems.
Oh,
And
crazy.
yeah. And Rudy Francisco and all these, like, he opened, man. But yeah, basically, I was in a bad place. I was young. it's weird when you say a bad place when you're young, because as you're older, you're like, how bad really was it? But when you really feel it as a human, no
Mm,
matter what age you are.
mm,
And I think, l- luckily for me, I had friends where we used to write a lot of raps and share with each other. So it got into a place where I was like, I just wrote this poem because I was breaking down and I needed to vent, and my only way of venting was to write at that time.
mm.
And then luckily for me, I went and me and my friends were partying one night and it got chilled, and they were like, so what are you working on? I must have been 17, 18. And I said, I've got this, and I showed it to them. And they said, stand up, perform it, and put some music on in the background. And they made me do it about 10 times. They were like, that's insane. You've got to record it. And I was like, it's too personal, man. I don't know if I can record it. But eventually called a friend and went and did it in Portsmouth, um, while I was living out of a bag and moving around. It was very whatever. It wasn't planned, basically. I was like, I'm
Mm.
coming to Portsmouth, man. I know you've got a camera. I've got a poem.
Oh
It was
wow.
kind of, it wasn't really, I was visiting Liz,
Okay. Oh nice.
and
Nice.
I knew that a friend of mine did film in
Mm,
Portsmouth. So I was like, do you want to come and film this poem I wrote when
mm.
I was messed up?
Oh
And he
crazy.
had the creative direction. He made it epic. I just was just like, I had the,
No, 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 no. Take credit where credit's due.
yeah,
That, yeah, no, that was, I mean, you've seen, I haven't been on there and looked at the numbers, to be fair. What's it saying right now?
boys. I have no idea, to be honest. I know, I'm the same. I'm like, I try to live in the present. If I look at the past, I worry about
Yeah.
my progression. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, nice, man. That's incredible. That really is incredible. That's a story. And it's kind of interesting because I always associate your introspection and your kind of more, I don't want to sensitive, but anyway, the kind of more emotional side as something that you've developed into as you got older. But you, was it 15? You were 15 when, no,
No,
but
I'd
it
say when I
older.
wrote Ocean of Pain, I was probably 18, 17,
18,
18.
18. Yeah. You look bare young still, but
Yeah, 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 yeah.
but
Yeah,
yeah, and it's like I know that those times the names, the moniker Sami Switch to Switch
yeah.
was for a reason.
100%, 100%. Well, yeah,
Um
because I guess, like, Reading, right? And you know yeah, you're a guru in the ends, man. You know everyone. You know the hood guys. And if you walk through town with you, everyone knows who you are, and it's one of them ones. But you know how it is growing up in this area, and I didn't give myself the name Switch. Someone else did. This is quite a personal thing, to be honest. But I got beat up a couple of times in year 7 or 8 when I was in high school, and you learn to fight back, essentially, and you great friends that fight back. And then as soon as I realized I could fight back, it became a bit of a problem, because I would fight back to the smallest altercation. So my friends would be like, right, stop switching. They'd be like, they called me Switch, essentially. And then become like, as soon as I kind of come into any confrontation, I would always, instead of being the victim, become almost the proprietor of the problem. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, nothing that I'm proud of, but just that was the
yeah,
situation.
yeah. And so I can see like this paradox that as a young man, you've got this kind of sensitivity. You talk about um you were down, you were depressed, you're kind of, struggling. You used poetry and spoken word to kind of deal with that, whilst doing something that isn't considered to be like typical manly stuff.
Yeah, yeah,
Whilst at the same time, if someone wanted to bring it, you'd bring it.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And hold in both worlds. I mean, what was that like?
Well, I think this is where the thing is, that area of my life where I was called Switch and known as that was maybe 15, 14, 15, 16, 17. It's a bit hard, man. My memory is a bit, but that was definitely the area. And then afterwards, because my name was known as Switch in Reading, I made my Facebook name Sami Switch,
Right.
just because I didn't want my government name on Facebook, essentially.
Yeah.
And then everyone recognized me as that. But when I was Switch, I didn't have the kind of vulnerability. Oh, I definitely had the vulnerability, but I didn't respond in the same way. I responded naively. I responded with anger and tension and misunderstanding. If someone came up to me or me or my friends and created confrontation, you'd be the answer that needed to be punished, instead of understanding slowly as you grow. Every pair of eyes is a soul with trouble, and then slowly as I grew to these ideas from my own trauma, my own understanding, and my own troubles through wisdom, essentially, I guess, it's very hard to hate or to be violent towards another when you kind of understand that we're all in the same bubble. Um, but that name stuck, which I keep mainly because it keeps the history of my novel, essentially. But yeah, it's definitely it doesn't, yeah, it's definitely a oxymoron now, as you know me.
Mm-mm.
It's very hard for me to hate or be violent or to switch, essentially. um but I've actually forgot what the question is. I'm going
No,
through
no, no, no. I was just sitting here. You know what? I was just sitting here, kind of thinking, if anyone hasn't yet gone and found your material and they listen to the podcast, and they're probably thinking, "Oh, this guy should write. He's so eloquent and he's got such a way with words." He does write. That's what he does. He's a performing artist. He raps. He can sing. He does spoken word. He uses words creatively, as you can tell. But no, I loved the point just now when you hesitated and you said you weren't vulnerable, and you said yes, you were vulnerable. And I think that if we could capture that for young people, the kind of essence of behind the bravado, behind that kind of, whatever it is that people think they need to portray, is still that vulnerability, and it might be cocooned with this hard shell, but there's no amount of cocoon in it that makes it go away, because that's part of our humanity, right?
100%, 100%. I think it's just genuinely as you're younger, you don't understand, as you say, cocoon, you don't understand that, I don't know, this oneness, this idea maybe that some people have of God or the universe, or this depth of soul, that we're all connected in some way. um when you're younger, it's tribe against tribe. It's like I'm with this gang, you're with this gang, I'm two different people. It's animalistic, it's youthful, it's I'm gonna protect this tribe and get my respect. It's all a game, essentially, where now I understand the oneness, and I understand there's love and there's truth, and there's so much depth that's bigger than even my understanding or knowledge, that I can sit with any human, or if there's any other, which disputes happen. I've been in the club, I'm sure you've been the same. Disputes have happened at this age, or in the last 6 months, or whatever, or year. And when it occurs, when I was younger, I would punch you in your face. But now I'm like, brother, like, are you sure? Like, I'm sorry, I got love. But I'm also like, I'm not gonna back down. But like, I'm like looking at you with a serious eyes, being like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not. It's a different world. It's a different world now.
I
When you're a kid, you don't know that. You don't know that. You literally go straight to, I'm the man. Now I'm like, I don't care if I'm the man or not. I'd rather just have the best day possible. How can I resolve this uncomfortable scenario? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's so beautiful. I was talking with Kian Mile, international ex-England rugby player, rugby player, who had his own kind of challenges. It's documented in the media and the Guardian, if you want to look him up. But we're kind of talking about masculinity and saying, what this kind of reflective approach does, it gives us more possibilities. That, if you want to just be that guy, it's like you're stuck in, like, everything. It's like all you've got to go to is kind of being this hard nut, and it's like it's limiting. And when people kind of say, oh well, are you still a real man, and a kind of challenge, to me, I think we're being more expansive, because you're
Yeah,
creating more possibilities. To me, that's as real as you can get. Everyone wants breadth and wealth in everything else, and then when it comes to aspects of themselves, they want to shut it down and limit it. It's
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
bizarre, right?
100%, 100%. Man, this is the thing about, I don't know, masculinity. It's like some of my friends that I was in the area with, where I would be so defensive, and would be in this area that might still be kind of in that area, and I meet a lot of them on the road or in different hoods or studios and places I go, the natural response is to make sure that you're still the man in the room. You're still the, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
This is my zone. This is where I'm at.
Mm.
And the fact is, actually, I come in, I'm so okay with myself now. Well, in certain aspects, I'm so okay with myself socially. My mental health and everything can go everywhere, but I'm so okay with myself. I can go into a hood scenario, which literally happened 2 weeks ago, and everyone's, and I'm there, and I straight away, and you know me, Harry, I'm a fool, innit? I'm like, what's up, bro? I'm like playing games. Someone says something to me, I banter off with them, and by the end of it, all of these guys that straight away were looking at me like, why are you in my friend's house? Are turned into like my friends. They're like freestyling, we're scatting, we're clapping, we're cuffing off each
Oh,
other's
nice.
chests, we're doing silly games, all this stuff. Because as soon as they realized that I wasn't like, hey, I'm being masculine too, I didn't care, and I was being an idiot. I think at one point I did a stupid joke where I like pulled on my trousers and showed that I wasn't. I don't know. There was something stupid. Like, this guy doesn't care, so we shouldn't care. Instantly, the masculinity went down. If I walked in like I'm the boss,
Yeah, yeah,
then they would be like, I'm the boss. This
yeah, yeah.
masculinity is a weird one, especially in this age, because I don't know. I don't know how important it is. I don't know how important it is for society's growth. I don't know. I don't know. It's a very deep question. When you,
No, it's for me, that is the question. Like, how important is and how relevant is it for us to portray some kind of alpha male persona? Is that important for driving down the road? Is it important for us to be on Zoom meetings by being the alpha male? I mean, what's its use? What's its purpose?
this is the thing. Is it? It's attractive. It's attractive to 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 females, I guess, or in some ways. But also, one of the things that my girlfriend loves about me is that she knows that I can. If someone tried to rob our house, I'd be at the door and I'd be cool. But also that I'll cry in her arms if I'm having a bad time. That's one of the big things that she loves about me. So it's
Yeah.
like masculinity, femininity. I don't know, man. I feel like it's such a weird thing because 100 years ago we wouldn't even be questioning these things.
Yes.
So it's actually brilliant that you're bringing this up into conversation, H. But
Mm.
it's like it's a hard one. What is it? What is masculinity? Can you answer
And
that? So I don't know.
well,
If I can.
and that's the whole point, is that it's a construction. It's like, if you were to just get kids and you like never change them, well, hopefully someone would, but you never knew what they had there, and you just said play, and you had like various toys and games and things to entertain them, and they were just playing. Is there going to be something innate that would make a child go, all right, look, I've just looked between my legs, and that means I want to play with the truck, and that means that I want to act out kung fu, and the girl's going to go, all right, okay, well,
Yeah.
I like pink. That's not how we are as human beings. There are things that get passed on epigenetically. That means there might be some things that, based on biological sex, we're going to be like tending towards. But as human beings, we're largely more similar than we realize. And that
Yeah.
external process of shaping us is what the world does. Things that we become accustomed to through socialization, that process that says this is the way it's supposed to be, we take it on, and sometimes we do things that don't even suit us, that something really hurts. I remember watching Coach Carter with Proof and Ras, and we're like, I think they'd probably kind of told before that I'd watch certain films and it would kind of get to me. And I remember on that occasion, they're like, so like, why are you crying though? um, but just that kind of thing of,
Why are you so emotional right now? Yeah.
but the thing where I kind of felt, well, I was kind of okay with kind of, showing my emotions, but I knew that they were okay. So I felt I had to be a particular way in relation to them. And
You had
that's
to
what
be
I'm
like,
trying to
okay,
get
so
to.
maybe I shouldn't, because maybe they might feel like I'm weak and I don't want to be a father that feels weak, etc., etc.
Yeah,
No,
or
hey,
let
but
me
if I
kind
watch Coach Carter now, I'll boo my eyes out, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
of, no, trust me.
I cry regularly at movies and films. Not like boo hoo hoo hoo, but
No,
like tears will drip, and
of
because I'm
course.
getting fulfilled with something deep.
No.
Yeah, hey, that
Yeah.
must, yeah, it's more complex for you with a child than with me or my girlfriend. Because this is always like, why are you crying? I'm not. You're crying. Why are you
But
crying?
it's still the same thing about how we limit ourselves, not based on what we feel, but sometimes the expectations that others have of us. And that's the bit that kind of really interested me about the scenario in that flat, or a lot of what we're talking about is if people were to just be themselves without those constraints of, I don't mean like, bad people who go out there and do bad things. I just kind of mean to just express whoever you are.
Hmm.
I kind of think that's, yeah, where we can really grow and thrive. So a question I got to ask you this is,
Yeah,
does that vulnerability help you in writing your music?
100%, 100%. But it's going well though.
Yeah. So yeah, one of the questions that came to me was whether or not you think that vulnerability that you're talking about and being able to access more, whether that helps with your writing. Is it relevant to your music?
I think that without being vulnerable, I wouldn't have access to the emotions that wouldn't have forced me to write. I feel like I've mostly written out of therapy and for validity and affirmation. And if I didn't feel vulnerable and accepting of my vulnerability, I wouldn't be able to write those things, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is beautiful in a way because it sometimes gives my pain purpose, because then I can share it with people and people go, me too, man. And everything's like, you're not alone. And then after doing that one time, you know that all of this stuff that's going on in my head, which every person has, every human living is going through. If I can somehow transform that into words and share it and get told by others, man, thank you for that, or I needed that, or me too. Every single time I feel something else that's tough, I know that I have a kind of, it doesn't help, as in like doesn't help with the deeper trauma or pain, but I know that I can transform it into a way which I can get some validity and know that it had purpose, which is beautiful but also painful. Do you know what I mean? It's a weird one. If that,
Yeah.
so basically, I'm okay with
Uh,
vulnerability, I guess.
so what you seem okay with as well is talking about mental health. So, a few minutes ago you were saying about like, okay, your mental health still goes up and down, and you kind of talk about it as a process of engaging with something. You
Yeah.
use the word mental health. So I'm not kind of digging into like the details of it, but more just like, what is mental health to you in a world where a lot of people don't even feel comfortable with those words coming out of their mouth in relation to themselves?
Mm. It's a tough one because like, how do you describe your inner journey of,
Mm,
uh, to anybody ever? Um, and to put it into a box of mental health, it's yeah, it's still a box. You know what I mean? I just know what it's like to feel really up one day, really down one day, really confused one day,
mm,
really lazy one day, really energetic one day, which is just all human emotions. Um, but when you start getting disassociated or suicidal or depressed, or like, that to me is a thing that occurs to me reasonably regularly, like a few times a year. A small thing can trigger me and I can spend a week in bed, if you know what I mean. um but the thing with understanding it and being aware of it is that throughout the years of my growth, when it first occurred to me, it was an abyss. I was just fell into it. I was like, this is the end. um but every time I know that I bounce back a little higher, whenever it happens now, it's still really tough, and I allow myself to switch off for a few days and not be good with my phone or just get away from the world or whatever. But it's still really hard, but it's more okay because I know it's just a phase. but my mental health is different to other people's mental health. I know some of my friends that have lost the plot essentially, or some people who have. Every mental health is different essentially. Every person's health is different. Physical health is different. If you relate
Yeah.
it to that, it's such a vast, massive thing that we can't even try to conceptualize. But the understanding that everyone is going through a different journey is where you create a kind of empathy, or if I can feel this low, then that person can feel this low. If I can feel this happy, then that person can feel this happy. And then you kind of build an understanding between human to human. And that's where I think you can become a good person and show love and understand the world, isn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, as someone who loves you and like cares about you, it's like these words aren't surprising, but when I hear them, they still rest heavy
Yeah.
on me, because yeah, you know, for
I mean, we've
reasons
been
you
talking about this for years. You've saved me a couple of times, man.
oh,
You were legit. You just like
been
there's a
alongside
reason
you.
why we're still in contact. You're literally in my eyes one of the angels that has came into my life and had a heavy positive impact in my life and brought me out. You know, when you're really really dark and someone just takes you in that moment and just randomly you get this. Whoop, that's been you twice. Do you know what I mean? I got
Oh,
so much love for you, bro. But anyway, that's
yeah, no, that's good. But yeah, moving on. But no, I mean, thank you. I
like
mean,
your
I think
vulnerability that is.
wow, wow, and I'm gonna leave this in as well, because we're being so authentic. You know, I was like listening to you, thinking, you know, a lot of the people on the series, you know, academics, and not that you're not, but like academics, and you know, they're kind of bringing ideas and theories, and we're having a conversation that's so engaging, because it's so real. Not that that isn't real, but the humanity in there. And when you spoke about like people's internal world, and I thought about what happens with the psychiatric system. So I've kind of worked in it. I'm in contact with it a lot, and how it can be easy to see like a diagnosis and to kind of have a sense of, right, okay, this is what's going on for someone. And just a very clear reminder, as you just said, that everybody's experience is so different and so unique, and unless literally you're inside it and there's only one person that can be,
How can you ever
then
know?
you don't know.
It's
So
so
to
yeah. It's like the idea. My friend said to me the other day. This idea, of Plato's cave. Have you heard of that?
no.
Plato's cave. It was crazy. I was in the studio with Cam and James Newman. He was like, "Man, I'm gonna miswear this now and sound like an idiot." Something of the idea that light comes into a cave from the back, and you, as a man, see your shadow of the world through the light going through the cave. So you create your own reality, your own idea of the world through where the light's coming from and where you are, and the shadow of it. And then through that, that's where you think that is life, but actually is so much vaster, and everyone has their own view of light and their own different shadows. And but I'm wording it really badly, but Plato's cave is the idea that every single person has no idea what reality is, because everyone's reality is different essentially.
Yes.
Is the
Yeah.
idea. So it's
Yeah.
so much vaster. So my only real reality is love and me understanding, like, I'm looking at you through a screen, but I'm looking in your eyes. I'm like, I know you, and I know it's safe, and I know there's truth there, and I know there's a story that has been 31 years of life and wisdom and growth, and like me too, and like that's my truth. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
There's
Yeah. And
I don't
and
know. I can go crazy. I can go crazy because I can't understand this. I can't understand that I'm on a sphere in infinite time and space, trying to work out my day to day things. But what I can understand is when I share a moment with a friend and I feel warm and safe and feel purpose. Do you know what I mean?
And what you actually said there is an important, there's like everything you're saying is important. And in my ears, I was kind of hearing this thing of often the disciplines that I work with in mental health or any other sector often think that they're working with someone to try and understand their reality. But like, you know, your idea of Plato's cave and like, yeah, everybody's got their own reality is that, and I always say this in unconscious bias, depending on who we are, we see or hear something different. So it isn't a neutral. Say I was a professional assessing you. I'm not just assessing you. I am bringing my reality, which is unique to just me,
Yeah.
into that process of assessing you, which is why, you know, one of the theories I talk about, like toxic interaction theory, and I keep the word interaction in there to kind of emphasize that when we come in as professionals into that space with someone who might be using services, that an interaction is going on. We are not performing a function on another, because as you say, we're bringing our particular version of
Yeah. Yeah.
reality into it.
This is it. Well, I guess the reason why this even matters is because we have to try and kind of fit into a system. And if you have people that are nutty that don't have help
Mm.
or medication in society, which would have occurred if we hadn't built towards a system that kind of suits the majority, then there would be more chaos. So essentially, we are working towards, like you said, the therapist's way of guiding someone towards what I think it is. But then, do we want to live in chaos? Is the question. So
Yeah,
it's
that's a real profound one, isn't it?
yeah,
Because
mental.
yeah, what we do is we guide people to a norm which
Yeah.
isn't even that great. um
So what is a norm? This is the
you know,
thing. What is a norm?
yeah,
What is normal?
yeah, no,
That's
it's
the bit.
crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, Sammy, last question before we're done. I'm aware that you are doing kind of, or have been doing work with asylum seekers and refugees. How did you get into that line of work or that interest anyway?
Okay. Yeah. See, so I was working with Reading Youth Theatre when I was younger, and the people that ran that started working actively with some kids that have come over from various different countries: Eritrea, Syria, Afghanistan, um, Albania, even, and working with kids in London that hadn't had a response from the Home Office, that were put into kind of accommodation. Kids under 18 that were put into accommodation in London. Um, and these people that I used to work with, and we've done various different plays about different kind of political situations. Example, we went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival and did a play about this Palestinian situation, etc. Um, they were now These guys were now working. Phosphorus Theatre is the name. They were working with these kids in London, and they asked me if I could come and do a workshop on spoken word. So, of course, I was completely happy to do that. But these kids, I think they wanted someone that was a bit younger, male, that could kind of fit in with, I don't know, their bracket of society a little bit, because they've just come in and got straight mixed in with London, the hood, essentially.
Mhm.
And we did a few spoken word workshops, got to know them well, and then kind of built a play around it, which they've gone and done at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival, travelled around. It's done really, really well. It's called Dear Home Office by
Okay.
Phosphor Theatre. It's really sick. But
Mm,
it was literally just from my friends at Reading Youth Theatre,
mm,
Kate Duffy, Dawn, and Liam, who had contacted me and said, "Will you come and spend the day?"
mm,
Um, that opened that door for me.
mm.
It was just because I had spoken word knowledge, and they knew that I would connect with them, and then it
Okay.
opened so many doors.
Mm,
But because my dad's an immigrant,
mm.
my mum's an immigrant, I obviously, my heart was connected to it deeply. So I was straight in, and we made yeah, it helped where I could, and made amazing memories and friendships,
Oh,
which is
nice.
really important.
That's
Since then, I've just been way more aware of the situation,
mm,
and being at protests and being involved where I can be. Maybe I could be involved more, but you know what I mean? It's just opened a door in my mind, as well as through friendships and moments. Do you get me?
yeah, and I mean that to me that's kind of really important because the way in which immigrants are spoken about often is like negative. The dominant discourse, as I say, is like of problematic discourses, and you know it's kind of just really interesting to talk to people who've got empathy and care and love, and you know I always say that with the global pandemic, if all the so-called immigrants or the kids of immigrants were to just walk out of the NHS right now, we'd
Where
be in
would
a state,
NHS be?
you know.
100%, man. 100%.
There's another story that could be told.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm aware of time, and
Okay.
yeah, I'm really grateful for you kind of jumping onto this podcast, and yeah, really enjoyed. It's just the way it just kind of flowed, and yeah, some really deep conversations, man.
Yeah. Well, likewise, I'm just grateful to see your face. I miss
Yeah,
you.
yeah. Likewise, man. As I
Yeah.
keep saying, it's been a minute. Like, I just can't wait until the world opens up, and
Yeah, we can
yeah,
talk and we can see each other properly. But yeah, it's been,
yeah, man.
and also it's been lovely just to vent about certain things that maybe I wouldn't have discussed in lockdown. So this is nice, man.
Yeah, man,
Very
that's
nice.
brilliant. Thank you so much,
Thank
Sami
you.
Switch.
Thank you, man.
All right,
Big love, bro.
all
Big love.
right.
As you can see, I really enjoyed that conversation with Sami. Sami and I, as you know, are good friends, and it was just great to see someone so young developing a consciousness and awareness of social injustice and finding ways inside and outside of his go-to profession to engage with activism. Sami, explored ideas around the kind of inequalities faced by refugees, as well as exploring his own mental health and acting as a motivator for many other people, really, by being so open and transparent with his own discoveries. It's a real pleasure to continue to work alongside and be friends with Sami, and I hope you enjoyed. I encourage you to search out the other episodes of the Seasoning the Reasoning podcast on your favorite platform.